Hello! This week in DOL 6 Middle Branch Sentences, you should be able to evaluate sentence structures for grammatical errors, sentence types, and parts of speech. Middle branch sentencing adds detail to a sentence. It can be removed and the sentence will still make sense. It also gives additional detail about a noun or a pronoun. Let's take a look at this picture. A lot of things could be happening here. Here's the sentence I created. The squirrel, after piling up all of his acorns, watched in horror as the pile began to fall. Our middle branch sentencing occurs right here, after piling up all his acorns. This is an additional piece of information that we've learned about the squirrel. If we were to take it out, the squirrel watched in horror as the pile began to fall. The sentence still makes sense. Notice if I were to leave in the middle branching sentence, but I took out the end of the sentence, what happens? The squirrel, after piling up all his acorns, the sentence no longer makes sense. This part is an additional detail. It does not need to be there, but it also cannot sustain the sentence on its own. The reverse is also true. If we were to get rid of the squirrel and just keep, after piling up all of his acorns, watched in horror as the pile began to fall, we're missing the subject of the sentence, and it no longer makes sense. This is an example of a simple sentence with middle branching. John, 14, is too young to drive. We can remove the 14 and say, John is too young to drive. We know this is a simple sentence because we have one subject noun and one predicate. Remember that the predicate are the verbs. In this case, there are two. We have is, which in this case is a linking verb, and drive, which is an action verb. You might wonder why is acting as a linking verb in this case. That is because is too young is describing what he is, and to is a preposition separating drive from is. If we go through and diagram the rest of the sentence, we see some describing words. John is 14. That is describing how old he is. He is also young. This is describing John as well. Too is telling us that he is too young. This is an adverb describing young, or the adjective. One very important thing to remember about middle branch sentences is that when we include the middle branch, we have commas on either side of it. So notice John, comma, 14, comma, is too young to drive. Here's another example of a simple sentence with the middle branch. My girlfriend, who is afraid of snakes, refused to go. Who refused to go? My girlfriend. Girlfriend would be the subject noun. Refused would be an action verb. Go would also be an action verb. If we also look at the middle branch, we notice that is a linking verb. Who is also a subject pronoun referring back to the girlfriend. If we diagram out the rest of the sentence, we see my is describing whose girlfriend. Describing would be an adjective. adjective describing girlfriend. Afraid is also describing what the girlfriend is. Adjective describing the girlfriend. Of is a preposition. Snakes is a noun. In this case, because we have a preposition before it, it's also an object of the preposition / noun. Yes, that means that you would get to draw a line of PP underneath. Finally, we have to. To is also a preposition. Remember that prepositional phrases only occur when there is a preposition and a noun at the end of it, making a prepositional phrase. Because we have a preposition here, but no noun, it is not a prepositional phrase. In our final simple sentence with middle branch, we see the player, exhausted from the long game, collapsed. We could take out exhausted from the long game and it would read, the player collapsed. We see our subject noun, player. Collapsed is an action verb. We can see that our subject plus our verb plus the complete thought make this a sentence. The player, exhausted from the long game, collapsed. If we were to go through and diagram the rest of the sentence, we notice that the is an article. Exhausted is describing the player. From is a preposition, so we should notice if there's a prepositional phrase coming up. The is an article. Long game. Long is describing the game. And the game is a noun, and since we started with a preposition, that would mean that this is the object of the preposition / noun. Also a line of PP for the prepositional phrase. Hopefully you're becoming more confident with how the sentences are put together. Remember, you only need to know the subject and the verb at this point. Ask me questions about other things if you need to. Now take a minute to write your own simple sentence with middle branch. How can you practice? Go to quizzes and do a test-like practice. Make sure to examine your own sentences and identify what we've practiced. Rewrite your simple sentences to demonstrate your understanding. And of course, day-by-day practice. Rewatch this lesson as much as you need. Download the PDF from Canvas and find a practice that works for you. Thanks for joining me.